I'm Denise.
She's a non-fiction editor, and I'm Louise.
She's a fiction editor. And together,
we're the Editing Podcast.
Hello again, and welcome to another episode of the Editing Podcast. So this time around, we're going to take a look at discovery calls, how editors can use them as a tool, how they perform a service for our clients, and whether they're a good idea.
Yeah, so what is a discovery call? Well, it's a conversation first and foremost, isn't it?
Yeah.
One that helps us as editors and proofreaders chat with our potential clients about their needs, their goals, and their expectations regarding the project.
Yeah, that's right. And that call gives both the parties the opportunity to get to know each other a little. They can work out if they're a good fit to work together, and they can dig down into the details of a project's scope, timeline, and importantly, budget.
Yeah. And that way, the editor gets to understand the client's vision for their written content and identify any potential challenges or issues, and then get a feel for how they might tailor their service to or services to meet the client's specific requirements.
Yeah, and for the author, it's an opportunity for them to ask questions about the editing process, to discuss their manuscript, and to gauge the editor's expertise and approach.
Yeah. So on the surface, it feels like a bit of a no-brainer to offer a discovery call service, doesn't it?
It really does, but, and there's always a but, there are things we need to consider. Now, while discovery calls can be valuable for both editors and potential clients, there are some potential disadvantages to consider. And the first one is time and money.
Yeah. So conducting them with each potential client, particularly if you're the kind of editor who works on short form content or shorter form content like journal articles, and with a lot of separate clients, and where the money you earn from each of those jobs is small in comparison with your longer projects like manuscript evaluations or full novel edits, or the kind of work that Denise, you sometimes do for publishers on ELT materials. Well, that could end up being really time consuming, especially if the editor is receiving a high volume of inquiries.
Yeah, and that's time that could be spent on actual paid editing work. And the second issue to consider is how many of those leads are going to be what we might call unqualified leads. So what I mean by that is that not every potential client who requests a discovery call will be a good fit for our services.
Yeah, or it could be that some leads might not be serious about hiring an editor, or might not have a project that aligns with the editor's experience. So, there is quite a bit to think about.
Yeah.
Now, the third thing we need to be aware of is that there's no guarantee of a conversion either.
Yeah.
Just because a discovery call takes place doesn't mean that you'll get hired.
Definitely not. Some people might use the call as a free consultation without intending to move forward with the editor.
Yeah.
And in some cases, you might find that the scope of the call has reached beyond exploration of a service and into a sort of editorial evaluation.
Yeah. And that kind of scope creep means you're actually doing free editing work rather than discovery work.
Yeah, absolutely. And
So
we also...
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, beg your pardon. That's your go. Carry on.
You're just jumping ahead there, madam.
I am. Sorry.
So we also need to consider the emotional labour of this service, because for some editors, engaging in multiple discovery calls will be quite emotionally draining.
Oh, definitely, especially if many of them don't actually lead to projects. And it can be incredibly frustrating to invest time and effort in discovery work that doesn't lead anywhere. And when that happens over and over, it might really get you down.
Exactly. Yeah. So how do we counteract these problems? Well, step one is to make sure you've got the order of play right. So if you decide to offer free discovery calls, create a dedicated web page where you list the basics.
Absolutely, yeah. So this needs to give the potential client a reminder of what they need to know before both of you invest time in a call. So that might include a summary of the editorial services you offer, the type of clients you work with, and the type of editing you do.
Yeah, that's right. And that means that if you're a specialist historical fiction editor, for example, you're not wasting your time on a call with a scientist who needs help tidying up their references in an article for the Journal of Pharmacy and Pharmacology.
Well, that's a tongue twister.
It is.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like a good fit though, doesn't it? Now, there might be information that you don't want to publish on your website, such as details about your availability and your pricing structure.
Yeah, and in that case, your discovery call web page needs to make it clear that that the potential client needs to email you first. So what we're saying is an editor's discovery process needs 3 stages: a discovery web page, a discovery email to make sure the fundamentals are working for both parties, and then, and only then,
Mm.
a discovery call where you'll go deeper.
Yeah, jumping straight to that call is potentially
Yeah, problematic.
disastrous,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah,
Yes. I think
problematic.
problematic is probably a better word than disastrous.
Well, it
Denise
could be
doesn't
disastrous.
catastrophize things, you know. Oh dear. It's also worth creating a short summary on your webpage that explains the purpose of a discovery call, that it's not about doing any work on the client's text at that point, but about exploring good fit skills, experience, and services. And many authors may not be familiar with that at all. So it's important that you do set that out clearly.
Yeah, you don't want to be having a discovery call when the person actually thinks they need well, they're calling it, say, a proofread,
Yeah.
actually,
Oh, yes.
but actually, it turns out that they need help. They need a manuscript evaluation or
Yeah.
help
That
with
old chestnut.
developmental
Yeah.
structure. Yeah,
Yeah. If they say it's a proofread, it's probably never a proofread.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if you're already offering discovery calls and you're continually finding that those aren't converting into paid work, it's time to acknowledge that something's going wrong.
Yeah. So either you're attracting the wrong kind of clients,
Which means you're not communicating your services and skills clearly enough,
or you're attracting the right kind of clients but with different expectations around budget.
yeah, in which case you need to improve the way you communicate your prices.
Yeah, essentially, it really is about getting the comms right and in the right order.
Exactly. So, in a nutshell, think of discovery as a 3-stage process: a clarifying web page, an introductory email, and finally the call itself.
Yeah, and by staging it like that, you'll ensure that by the time you get to the actual call stage with a potential client, you're both already on the same page.
Yeah, and that's it.
Oh,
That's
simple.
our 3-step process.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, Denise, but I mean, I don't do that many discovery calls because, again, I
Yeah.
tend to sort of like to make sure that I want to have got to that stage where it feels right. It feels ready to it's not
Yeah,
that you've converted the client, but it's that you feel like it's got a really high probability.
absolutely. Yeah. So that's me with sort of indie author clients,
Yeah,
the small proportion of them that I do. For my big publishers, a discovery call probably isn't called that. It's more likely to be like an onboarding call
yeah,
where
yeah,
I'm already at the stage of committing myself to the work for them and they're
yeah,
in control of that, not me.
yeah. So
Mhm.
again, it's that you're already on the same page about your
Yeah,
availability, your pricing structure. Everybody
exactly.
knows all that stuff. It's about actually digging into what the expectations are around the project.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's it from us. Short one this week, but
Yeah.
thank you once again for listening. If you'd like to help support the editing podcast, we've got a couple of options for you. The first is that you can tip us with a one-off donation of your choosing.
Or you can join our Patreon community. All our patrons get exclusive access to a huge batch of transcripts.
Both the links rather are in the show notes. Both the notes are in the notes. Both the links are in the show notes. And yeah, in the meantime, she's been Denise.
And she's been Louise. Join us again next time.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.